Hello and welcome to Blades of Thunder. Welcome everyone to this edition of Blades of Thunder, and in this episode it is the Red Lodge Westland Whirlwind update part 2. We're going to be talking about the fuselage, how to open up all the holes, etc., and moving on to actually fitting the mechanics and the woodwork. And as you saw in the last episode, we actually managed to get the model to fly beautifully. We've had about 20 flights on her as a flying fuselage now. It's really nice, which means it's time to move on. So, if you remember way back to an earlier episode, we unboxed the fuselage and we showed you what you got. So you got the fuselage, you got a wood pack, you got the separate bits. You also got a lot of detailing parts, which I've now got in a little box ready to go on. You got the undercarriage and wheels. So it is a very comprehensive kit now compared to a Vario kit. If you wanted to build it straight out the box, all you needed to do was add your own mechanics and off you go. But like with a Vario, you just get the basic fuselage. You need to buy a set of mechanics, and if you want to detail it in any way, you have to either make those or buy them. But Nick supplies this as a kit with details as well. You can even buy, which we did do, we bought the canopy, the cockpit parts as well, and so we'll be moving on, looking forward to doing that. We've already got the crew from our friends at Real Model Helicopters, and we'll put links to everything in the description. So once we'd unboxed the fuselage and we built the mechanics and we test flown the mechanics, it was time to work on the fuselage. Okay, so moving on, first job with the fuselage is to cut out all the windows. Now, I hate this job. It's the worst job, in my opinion, in the world on building a scale helicopter, but it has to be done. The other option would be to paint all the windows a different colour and leave them on, but I'm not keen on that either. However, how did we do it? All right, now to cut the windows out, it's a pretty simple matter. Now what I do is I mark out on the fuselage where the windows are. Now Nick is really good with his fuselage. There's some really good lines that you can follow, and I draw it in with a black marker pen. I use the Staedtler marker pens and just draw it out, and it gives you the outline. Okay, then with my Dremel with a 3mm drill, now make sure it's nice and tight in the chuck or the collet on your Dremel with the 3mm drill, is chain drill the hole that round the inside of the window. Now go back about 3 or 4 millimeters in case you make a mistake with your drilling, because remember, measure twice, cut once. So go back inside, and you're going to be filing it out anyway, so go inside and then you chain drill. Now what that means is you drill a series of holes around the inside of the window opening. Okay, and then once you've drilled all the holes, you can use the drill like a saw and cut the bit out. Okay, and then once you've done all of that, all over them, on all the openings on the model, you can then move on to opening them out nicely to where they should be. Now you need to be very careful with this, because when you're sanding and filing fiberglass, if you use too coarse a file or sandpaper, just one stroke could be enough to take off 2 or 3 mil of material. So just be very careful when you're doing it. If you're going to use the Dremel to take it back, again, be very careful. Use the higher grade on the sanding barrels. Okay, I think I use 240 grade to do the corners, and just be very gentle. Okay, keep the speed of the Dremel down to as low as you can possibly go, and then just drill it out slowly and surely, or sorry, not drill it out, but sand it and file it out very, very carefully. So you've got, as you can see, you've got nice finish on the windows. And on the Whirlwind you've got grills and stuff to cut out as well. There's a few other holes. And then once that was all nicely done, we've got the holes out. The next step is to dry fit the woodwork. Now, Nick supplies the woodwork for the model. It's pre-cut in a nice package. And what you need to do first is to dry assemble it inside the model. Okay, now it all does fit into the model. It all goes in down through. If we take this off, you can get all the woodwork in through the hole, big hole at the top. Okay, so you just get it all together in dry. The first thing I did was put the longerons in, and then you can put the frames in. Okay, so once the frames are in place, you can look at where they go and get it right. Okay, so once we've got the woodwork in, the next stage is to fit the undercarriage. Now, the undercarriage supplied by Lodge Helicopters is 3D printed nylon, and first thing we do is assemble it, put it all together. We put springs in the bottom section so that it will move in and out on its own like that. Okay, so it pops out, goes in and out. So when the aircraft's flying, the undercarriage drops down. When it lands, it compresses. So that's a nice scale feature. You don't need to put springs in if you don't want to. We did. Okay, but one thing I will say about the nylon oleo in particular was I had a bit of a knock in the workshop and broke one, and I tried to fix it, but I couldn't. So rather than ask Red Lodge for a new one, I decided to make an aluminium oleo, and I used I could have made it on the lathe out of an aluminium bar, but I decided I would make it by hand without using the lathe. So anybody without a lathe can make one. Okay, and it's simply a tube within a tube and a bar, an aluminium bar that slides up into that aluminium tube, and then you glue it. You cut it all to the right size, and then you glue it all together using epoxy and cut and file so that it fits in, and then you can put it back together. Now, I kept the nylon spring container because that didn't break and it seems to be okay, but should it break, we'll just make a new one out of aluminium again. Okay, and it works in exactly the same way and it does exactly the same job. So should you break one, all is not lost. Okay, you can make one relatively simple. I, in hindsight, would probably be tempted to make them from metal in the first place. Okay, although there's nothing wrong with the aluminium ones. Okay, also the nose gear, just you have to line that up and bolt it on, and the nose gear is a one-piece non-moving oleo, so it works, it's fine, it's good. We've had 20 flights on it with one or two heavier than normal landings, and it seems to have survived. However, it is a future upgrade plan to change this to a working front oleo so that they extend, and we'll make that out of aluminium and steel. Again, it's just a scale feature that I just felt that the legs didn't look right when the model was in the air, and just a little niggle, but I'm going to cure it at some point in the near future. Okay, so how do you fit the undercarriage? The only downside was that, unlike the windows and some of the panel lines, there was no marks in gel coat to show where the leg goes in. Okay, you need to work it out where the tube is going to go. Now, Red Lodge supply the tube and the undercarriage, and they're pre-bent to shape, and it's basically the two outer tubes go in from the outside into another tube that is pushed through the fuselage and glued into place. Okay, so what you need to do is work out where the leg goes, and if you've got your woodwork in the right place, you can take a measurement from the U in the longerons that glue to the bottom. Okay, so you take a measurement from using the front of the model. Okay, now I used a long engineering square, so you can put that flat up against and then put the ruler inside and measured to the start of the U in the longeron. Okay, and then I added the radius of the tube that will sit on the inside to that, which should give me the center point of where I wanted the tube to come out. Now again, you also need to do it the height in the fuselage. So I drew a line on the side of the fuselage with a pen, just drew it on where the center line is in the vertical plane. Then, using the window, because the two windows on either side at the back are in exactly the same place. Okay, so using the windows, I measured, using an engineering square again, measured down to the bottom of the U, and then subtracted the radius of the tube that goes in. Okay, and then drew the line in the horizontal plane, and it gave me the cross to mark the center point. Okay, now this is really important. When I drilled the hole, I did not get a drill bit the same size as the tube. Again, as in, if you remember in the previous video with the main shaft, I opened the hole out gradually, making sure that the tube every time was in the right place. Now I was fortunate, I had a brass bit of tube, that the scrap that I could use to check the center lines every time. Okay, and it came out quite well. So I got it open, put the tube in. Okay, checked it. Now the tube you need to cut to size, and it was just a little too long sticking out the side. So once I cut it to size, we glued it in position. Okay, but you need to be careful when you're gluing it in that you don't get any glue on the inside of the tube, because the outer arms go inside there, and there's no bearings or anything, they just rotate inside the tube. Okay, so we got that on. Okay, then you fit, I dry fit all the undercarriage together. Okay, so you bolt on the oleo to the axle, and then you put the axle in the tube. And then if you look at pictures of a Whirlwind, it has a bracket exactly like that here, okay, that the oleo bolts onto. And you can see there's a panel line, I've drawn it on here, that goes from here to here, and a panel line that goes vertically here. This bracket is midway between the 2 points. So the centre of this line here is the centre of the bracket here, and then this bracket is bolted along that line. So this back edge is along this vertical line here, okay, and that is the correct position for this bracket. So you can put the bracket on, drill the holes and bolt it in place. There's a wood packer that goes behind it, okay. In fact, there's 2 wood packers that you can put behind that and things. But what you must ensure is that when you do the other side, it is exactly the same height as the other side. Because if it isn't, you're going to end up with a model that's going to sit wonky. Okay, so it's very important that you get that bit right, because it is these two, the brackets on either side, that dictate the height. Okay, so you must get them correct. So take your time, use measuring tools. Right, and then obviously once it's all bolted up, the undercarriage is on. One thing I didn't mention is we got these rubber sleeves that go over the oleo, just like on the full-size helicopter. Okay, and they came from eBay, and again in the link below where show you where you can get them from. It's just a nice little scale detail that hides the Fuselage portion of the oleo from sight and keeps it clean on the full-size aircraft. Once we've done the undercarriage, I moved on to looking at reshaping the bottom of the fuselage. Now, remember earlier we talked about that this is not not standard Red Lodge Whirlwind fuselage anymore. It's been modified to make it a helicopter anti-submarine Mark 7 version of the Westland Whirlwind. So it's got an extended belly. In fact, it's about 40 millimeters deeper in the belly than the fuselage we originally bought. Okay, now we've done that because I served in the Royal Navy and I'm completely nuts on anything that helicopters in the Royal Navy. So rather than have the earlier version, I could have done the Green Parrot, which was a early Sikorsky built Whirlwind that used to fly admirals around, but I wanted the anti-submarine version because nobody has done one, as far as I'm aware, in a radio controlled helicopter. So it may be a first, it may not, but we'll see. So we needed to modify the standard fuselage to make this into a Mark 7. Okay, so if I just pick the model up now, you can and just tilt it, you can see underneath there is a torpedo well, where this torpedo will fit. Okay, and maybe even release it. So how to do that? Well, to modify this helicopter to a Mark 7 was not an easy task. It took a lot of thinking about, in fact, to put it aside for quite a while I thought about it, and then came back to it, thought about it some more. Now, what I did was, I thought, first thing to do is design the torpedo well. So it was off with my wife to Duxford, the Imperial War Museum there, where they have a Mark 7 that's hanging from the ceiling. So that's a good thing to do, is to go and look at the real aircraft if you have access to one. Now Duxford has one that hangs from the ceiling, which means that you can see underneath, which meant I could see the torpedo bay and what it looked like. And then I bought a Corgi version of a Mark 7, okay, which is a 1/72nd scale model of a Mark 7 Whirlwind, and using the photographs that I took and the drawings that I now have access to, which I didn't when I first started this, they're a relatively new addition. I was able to get a very accurate torpedo well. So what I did, using Fusion 360, I drew and 3D printed the torpedo bay, okay, so that I had a solid structure, okay, which I had, because of the constraints on printer size, had to be printed in 2 parts and then joined together. That allowed me to play around quite a bit before I actually made a single cut in the fuselage, where to do it, how to do it. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't glue the bases in, the base of woodwork, because I needed to be able to see stuff when I cut it out. So I, using lots of measurements, positioned the torpedo bay in the right place on the fuselage, and then marked out the lines. Now, when you're drawing straight lines around curves, Helix do a flexible steel ruler, which is brilliant for drawing straight lines on curves. Okay, so if you haven't got one, I highly recommend that you get one. You can buy them from any stationers, but they're just very good because you can bend the ruler and it will flex back to shape without breaking, and draw your lines. So to get the lines in the right place under here, needed that ruler. Okay, now again, mark your center lines. Okay, know where the middle of the helicopter is at all times. So mark your center line, mark the position where the torpedo bay starts. Okay, then draw around the torpedo bay, okay, to mark the position. And again, check it, make sure you're happy, because again, this is a one-shot chance. Okay, you get it wrong, you've got repair work to do, and that's even harder. Okay, so we cut out the hole and fitted in the torpedo bay and glued it in position, again using epoxies with thickeners and all sorts, so it's in there nice and secure. And also make sure that it's level to the fuselage. Okay, and if you notice on the torpedo bay, it's got the 2 bits that stick out the side, which later anti-collision light was fitted to one side, and I don't know what was there before, yet to find out. Trying to find out from the Fleet Air Arm Museum when anti-collision lights were fitted to Whirlwinds, because I've seen so many pictures that some have them, earlier ones don't. So we got the wheel well, got the torpedo bay in position, glued it and dried. Now, how did I extend the fuselage? Okay, well, at the front of the front end is some engine parts and a bay that stick out a little bit. So we made a fairing as a guide fairing in there that glued it to the front as well in the right place. And then using what was called blue foam, it is now black. It's still sold by the Blue Foam company, and they just say it's exactly the same stuff, just the manufacturers have changed the colour to black. Okay, and in layers, cut out the layers and glued it to the fuselage. Basically, I did it a layer at a time. Obviously, you're going to have some filling to do. Now, I used the foam to chop it up and stick it in where there were gaps, because I wanted to lessen the amount of filler that I used. So once we got the sandwich layer built up, it was very easy then to sand it to shape. Now, to assist myself sanding it to shape, I made a profile of the belly of the helicopter, which is from pretty much from the nose to the start of the flanges that come out here. It is pretty much the same. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention that I made a template as well that I put on the side to give the shape at the back here, and drew round it, and then cut the torpedo bay to shape. Okay, and then filled in the holes. Right. So once we'd got that, we sanded it to shape. Now take your time. Again, blue foam is incredibly easy to over sand. Okay, so one pass, check, one pass, check, one pass, check, and then once you're happy with the shape of the foam, okay. Now obviously the back bit here was a little harder to do, and you couldn't use the sanding former that I'd made to do this bit. So this was all done by eye and by hand, and you can do it. You just need to take your time, and again, repeat, pass, repeat, pass, repeat. Okay, and once it was all nicely sanded to shape, I put on some glass cloth. I put on 2 layers of 50 grams per square metre cloth, followed by a 25 gram per square metre cloth, and let that cure. And then once that was cured, we can start sanding and then filling any holes, obvious holes. Okay, so you repeat sanding, filling holes, sanding, so you're constantly filling. And I think I did about 6 passes to get a nice finish. And then it was out into the garden on a nice day, and this is Halford's filler primer, which is a yellow thick primer, 2 layers of that, and then again sanded. And this filler primer really shows up the blemishes, and you can still see where we had to do a little bit more filling after it had that prime. So we got a nice smooth finish to match the gel coat, and that was that. Okay, it was really it took about 3 weeks to do that bit, which was quite a long time. So if anyone is interested or wants to convert their Whirlwind to a Mark 7, then they can contact us, and we can supply a conversion kit and offer advice on how to do it. Okay, so once we've got the conversion done to the fuselage, and I love it, okay, the next thing was to look at securing the top cockpit section and doghouse to the fuselage. Did consider using magnets and pegs, but I changed my mind, and what I've done is, so that this is going to be very secure, I have where the window can slide. Just put it back. It's typical, isn't it? It doesn't want to come back when you want it to. So to get this on and off, it's bolted on. Okay, there's a bolt that goes in on either side. Okay, so we've got this in position, drilled the pilot hole. Okay, we're using M2 bolts that fit into brass threaded inserts that are glued using microfiber on the inside of the fuselage, so just there. Okay, and then these screw in nice and tight to hold the top section on. Okay, and it works really well. Means that it can't come off on its own. It's physically secured to the fuselage. Did consider more bolts around the fuselage, but it wasn't necessary. After the amount of flying we've done with this model, it seems okay. We may need to look at that later on, but at the moment it seems okay. So once the top section was secured, we looked at the nose section. Okay, so the nose section is held on by magnets. Okay, so there's 2 pegs either side and 3 magnets up in the top of the fuselage. So there's one here, one there, and one on the other side. So that sticks in and lines up on the pegs and clips into position. But also, I didn't use the hinges that Red Lodge supplied. I've made my own hinges because they're just slightly more scale detailed in them. Okay, and they mate together like fingers, like a proper hinge. And then we've got pins, 4 pins, 2 on either side, that we can drop down into those just to physically secure the nose to the helicopter so it can't come off in flight, because I'm sure if anyone's had a canopy come off a pod and boom, it never goes down, it seems to go up into the blades. And should this heavy duty piece of fiberglass go up into the blades, it's going to make a mess of your blades as well as wreck your nice nose for your helicopter. Okay, also on the far end, the tail cone's been made removable, and again we've glued in woodwork on either side, and using M1 screws through these details, it secures to the tail cone. Okay, so that just lifts off so you can get access to the tail rotor. Okay, also before test flight, we've sliding door here. Okay, now the kit doesn't come with anything that will allow to fix the door to the side or make it slide. You could glue it if you wanted to, if you didn't want it opening, but I wanted to be able to, for pre-flight checks and maintenance, be able to get to the mechanics without, if necessary, without actually having to take them out. So having the sliding door open and close. It's not fitted at the moment, but there is a flange that fits on the front, which we 3D printed to stop it sliding off the front. Okay, so what we've done is I've printed 2 U runners, okay, out of not PLA but PETG. Okay, so they're nice and tough. Okay, and the door slides in and out. Okay, and then obviously it can't slide at the back because the undercarriage stops it, but we will put a scale like stop. There is on the full size, there's a little stop that sits up in there. We'll put one of those in to stop it sliding back. And as you can see, it's quite smooth. Now it'll probably tighten up with when we paint it, so it may or may not require some kind, when you're flying and you want the doors secured, may or may not require some kind of magnets or something to stop it opening up. But yeah, okay. And also, as part of this, you notice we've got stiffeners glued to the fuselage, and they're a scale detail. Okay, and they're again 3D printed, this time in PLA. I've used a metal grey silver PLA. That's just what was in the printer at the time, and I couldn't be asked to change it. Okay, so yep, and it's designed to, this one in particular is designed to fit over the runner. And again, if anyone's interested, they can contact us and we'll be able to supply a door detail kit of what, so that you can make your own door, sliding door. Okay, you know, we're more than happy to do that if anyone's interested. Okay, let's talk about batteries. We're powering this model. It's a 6S model because it's T-Rex 550, so it's a 6S setup. Using two 6000 size batteries in parallel that fit nicely inside the nose of the helicopter here. Okay, and the woodwork is good. It's already got slots cut in it here and here, and obviously at the back. It's for straps. We put a bit of Velcro in to help secure the batteries. Okay, so they sit in there quite nicely, and actually the two 6S batteries that we're using balance the model very nicely. Okay, also we will be fitting a third battery at some point, which will power the smoke generator. Fitted. Now we've obviously got the model the wrong way around at the moment, but on this side is an exhaust, and I'm not sure if anyone's seen footage of early helicopters starting up, particularly helicopters like the Whirlwind and the early seahorses with the internal combustion engines in them rather than the gas turbines that helicopters seem to have these days. When they started those engines, there was a big plume of smoke that came out, and I wanted to try and simulate that. And I'm pleased to say I think I might have cracked it. Now, to do that, I'm sourced a smoke generator. Now this one is from ADRC, and it's the AD Smoke Generator Plus. It's designed for RC crawlers and trucks, you know, the bigger RC crawlers and trucks, and it generates a huge amount of smoke, maybe even too much for our purposes, but you can adjust jumpers on this and it will increase or decrease the amount of smoke that you get. So these early helicopters, they started up, you got a big plume of smoke that belched out the side, and then as the engine's running, just like your car, you get an exhaust smoke that comes out the side. So I 3D printed an exhaust pipe for it, and we connected it up and had a test. Good, isn't it? I love it. Did fill the workroom up with a lot of smoke when I was playing around and testing with it. That is on, I think, the second level of smoke, so it may need more, may need less when we're outside. Haven't tried it yet, so looking forward to, once the whole model's back together, testing that. And we will keep the smoke generator running while it's in flight, because it would just keep generating a small amount of smoke as it's running. Also, as you may have noticed in the test flight in the previous video, we fitted a sound unit, and you just heard it in that clip there. Now the sound unit is, you know, Model Sounds Inc. Shockwave free. Okay, I've made this case for it on Velcro so that we can take it in and out of the model and swap it between other models. Now, it is a brilliant sound unit, and I am very, very sad to say that after 18 years, David Harrison and his wife have decided to retire, and they've stopped making these, and they're completely out of stock now, which is very sad but understandable. And David, very much hope you and your wife enjoy your well-earned retirement, and thank you so much for these wonderful sound units. I did notice on, I looked at their website this morning before making this video, and it does say on there that another company may be taking it on. Let's hope so, because the Shockwave 3 is probably the best RC sound unit on the market, in my opinion. I've tried several now, and this one is brilliant. And also, we have the two speakers mounted to the sides of the fuselage. Now, they're not speakers in the traditional sense, they're transducers or exciters, and they're fixed directly to the fuselage. Now, you must find a spot on the fuselage that's flexible. I don't know whether you can see that is flexing as I put it in. So there's one either side, and they're fitted in flexible parts of the fuselage, and it basically uses the fuselage as the speaker. So the exciters are exciting the fuselage to generate the sound, which is quite a novel concept. And it's quite good because you don't have to cut big holes in the fuselage. If you remember, I don't know, people who know me know that one of the first models I built was a Sikorsky Seahawk, and there's a 3-inch speaker in the nose of that, and we had to make like a speaker cover to go over it to hide it. Okay, so yeah, so these transducers are brilliant. They're also lighter, which is great, absolutely great. Right, so sound units fitted, smoke now fitted. Next thing, moving on to detailing the fuselage. Now you can see that I've made a start on detailing the fuselage. I've done the nose, I've done the top section, and I've done the tail and the door. Still got the door to do the rivets on. Riveting is a skill that I have only recently acquired, and I intend on doing a how-to video on how to do it, because when I was looking, I couldn't find anything. I knew how to do it, but I couldn't find anything to show you how to do it. So for those people who want to see, we're going to do a tutorial on how to do riveting. Okay, so the detailing. Obviously, you get lots of details with the kit, and if you're just going to do this out of the kit, all your details are there. I am going to the next stage. So there's little Zeus clips, handles on doors, okay, that aren't in the kit. Little 3D printed resin details here on stiffening plates and cover plates up the side of the fuselage here. Okay, you had to make a section here using PETG, or was it PLA? PLA on that top section, so that the fairings and stuff, so the doors will slide. And you can see lots of photos on how we've done this on our Facebook page. Okay, so everything is there for the Facebook page. One of the nicest things that I've done, only in my opinion, is the Whirlwind has got lots of grills covers. I did make a mistake. Okay, I cut out all the holes on this one, thinking that for the Mark 7 Whirlwind they were correct. Now they weren't, and so I had to fill and recut on that side. So what I've done is I've made a 3D. I drew it on the computer with Fusion 360. The grills, this grill cover, and on the back I glued on wire mesh. Now the wire mesh is aluminium mesh from a company called Isopon, okay, and it's for repairing GRP repairs in cars. So if you've got a gap that you need to bridge with GRP, you glue that in, and then you can fiberglass over the top. Okay, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's exactly the right scale for a 1/8 scale model. Okay, it's the right diamond shape, which is even better, and it looks, I'm going to admit, once it's painted like it is on the back here, it is absolutely perfect, and it looks great. Okay, so instead of a big hole, we've now got the mesh inside. You could, if you wanted to, you could just cut out the holes individually on the nose, and then glue the mesh to the inside of the fuselage. That was my original plan, but I found the fuselage was a bit too thick, and it looked too deep inside the fuselage. So we made the fairings that go over the top, the panels that go over the top, and it worked out really well. Now they are just like the full size. They are screwed on using little tiny 1mm screws, and so far I've gone through about 300 of them because they're all over the place on this fuselage, absolutely everywhere. So you've got the Zeus clips on here and on the tail, they're 3D printed, and then there's a 1mm screw screwed down because I don't know how many people have actually worked on aircraft and stuff, but these Zeus clips are a cross point head, sometimes they're a flat head, and they just in and quick quarter turn and they're locked. Okay, and they're used on panels like this. Now on the full size helicopter, this whole panel will come off, okay, giving you access to the gearbox inside. Okay, so we got lots of details to go, and that's the next stage, is to finish off rubbing the fuselage down and priming and fitting the details. And I'm doing lots more details than actually come in the kit, like the fuel panels and stuff that all fit here. Now if you notice also, on aircraft you've got all sorts of markings that tell the ground crew basically, put that here, don't that there, don't push here, push here, and jack here, pick it here, markings like that, and warning signs. Now this is going to be a dark blue fuselage, because the end product is going to be this Mark 7, which flew from HMS Hermes in 1961, which is why I'm confused about the anti-collision lights. Okay, so the fuselage is RAF blue grey with golden yellow top. This book told me the exact paint coat to order from our local paint supplier, so we've already got that, got the paints, and we're going to move on to the detailing now. We're going to have the fuel panels and everything going to be made, obviously the riveting, but the markings on the side are white. Now ordinarily I would make my own decals, but I can't because they're white, and you can't print white. I can't print white, so what I've done is I've printed out all the details. Now obviously I've given myself spares and extras, okay, and these will be sent off to a company who will make me dry rub transfers, which you just put on the side and then rub to get them to fix. Now it's quite an expensive process to have dry rub done, so as you can see, what I've done is I've cut out, making sure that I've got the right size, because the last thing I want to do is to send this off to be made, spend the money, and then come back and find that it's the wrong size. So take the time, cut them out, stick them on, make sure everything is the right size before you spend the money. Okay, and I'm not joking, it's quite expensive. It's over £100 just for an A5 sheet. This is A4, but the sheet inside is A5. Okay, so it's expensive, and if you want another colour, it becomes even more expensive. Now, So I need two colours for this. I've only done the white so far. I've got the yellow to do. Obviously the black that goes on the top here, I can do myself using 3D printed water slide, not 3D printed, inkjet printed water slide transfers. Okay, so again, if any detailing we do, if anyone wants some that isn't part of Nick's kit, again, ping us a message and we'll see what we can do to help you out. Okay, so it might just be an extra detail kit for Nick's Whirlwind. Okay, and to be honest, it's a very nice fuselage. It's been lovely to work with. Okay, and it flies well. And so if you are looking for something a little different, I would highly recommend you go and have a look at Lodge Helicopters website. They've got a lovely choice of machines that you can choose from. So the Whirlwind is different. There's not many of these around. I've only ever seen one other, and hopefully there's a lot more around. If you do have one, I'd like to see some pictures, so you can pop it on the Facebook page. So thank you very much for watching this update, part 2 of the Western Whirlwind Mark 7 build. So the next stage we're moving on to is rubbing down, detailing and painting. So we'll do another video sometime in the near future to show you how I got on. Thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you in future videos. Don't forget to please like, share and subscribe, and also to go to our Facebook page where you can find loads of pictures, probably nearly 500 or 600 detail pictures of how this model so far has been built. Take care, see you all soon.